by recognizing that we're on the traditional territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe peoples, and I'm really excited to be right here at Switch Energy. Switch Energy is a great Canadian company. It also happens to be right here in Hintonburg in Ottawa Centre, and I'm just so proud of the fantastic work it's doing in renewable energy and really demonstrating what the future looks like. It is here right now. How we build, how we use energy, we can transform things. And that's really the great opportunity. So thank you very much to Matthew, Matthew Britt, the CEO, and your entire team. I know there are a lot of millennials, as we were commenting on. Also, I have Lily and Ellie here, who are two young girls who are really excited about climate action and who really care about the future. I know there are another number of representatives from the solar, home building, and small business sectors here as well, doing amazing work here in Ottawa. I'm really grateful for you to be taking out the time of your busy day to be here. So in every election, we get to make a choice about the future of our country and what kind of tomorrow that we want to build together. And I will tell you this election, there's no greater choice than on the environment and action on climate change. On October 21st, it's up to Canadians to choose whether we go back in time, back to the Harper years, where we did nothing on climate change, domestically or internationally, or whether we keep moving forward with an ambitious and pragmatic climate plan for Canada. That is the choice. Le 21 octobre, les Canadiennes et les Canadiens auront à choisir. Reculer vers les années de Stephen Harper et l'inaction climatique, ou continuer à faire des progrès avec un plan ambitieux et pratique. Ça, c'est le choix. It's a really important decision to make. People don't have to imagine what it means for their lives if we don't take real action. We're already all living it. Just think about everyone here living along the Ottawa River. We saw flooding, once in 100-year floods, happening every few years. That had an impact on people's lives and their livelihoods. If we look across the country, we've seen droughts wiping out crops. We've seen wildfires that are burning longer and stronger than ever before that actually impact our health because it's dangerous to go outside. That we've seen people die in Montreal and Toronto because of extreme heat. And if you think about the Arctic, that this is an existential threat for Indigenous people, in particular the Inuit that live there. Science is clear. Canada is warming at twice the global average, 3 times or more in the north. As leaders, as governments, as businesses, as citizens, we have a responsibility to act. We have a responsibility, a moral responsibility, to leave a clean environment and healthy planet to our children. We also have a huge economic opportunity to build a cleaner future with good jobs for everyone. Over the past 4 years, that is exactly what our Liberal government has done. Que nous soyons dirigeants, membres du gouvernement ou citoyens, nous avons tous la responsabilité d'agir. Il est de notre devoir de laisser à nos descendants un environnement propre, une planète en santé et de bons emplois. Et c'est exactement ce que nous, notre gouvernement libéral a fait depuis 4 ans. Let's talk about what we've done. We've put a price on pollution that causes climate change. We're phasing out coal, investing in renewables, ensuring a just transition for workers and communities. Brought in a net zero building code. We committed to 100% electric vehicles by 2040. We've invested in public transportation. In fact, many of you might have used the new LRT in Ottawa to get here this morning. That the second phase of LRT will be the largest reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in Ottawa's history by using zero-emission transportation. We're providing rebates for the purchase of electric vehicles. We're building affordable housing right here in Ottawa Centre that's to the passive or net zero standard right now, so that those that can least afford it pay the least when it comes to energy costs. We've introduced a world-leading oceans protection plan. We're doubling the amount of nature that we protect, and we are banning harmful single-use plastics. But you know what? Some politicians, conservative politicians, want to stop this progress. They want to follow Doug Ford's example, where it's free to pollute, where we cancel programs that are helping businesses, schools, hospitals, people save money and do right by the environment. Cancel tree planting programs, canceling incentives for electric vehicles. And that is exactly what Andrew Scheer would do too. Andrew Scheer would cancel our plan, which we know would actually cost people more money, but think about the impact on our planet and the impact on the future of our children and grandchildren. Let's be clear. The government under Andrew Scheer has said the first thing they would do would be to make it free to pollute, and they would get rid of our better rules for major projects. Certains politiciens conservateurs, voudraient arrêter ce progrès. Voudraient non seulement retourner au jour de Stephen Harper, veulent allier avec Doug Ford et l'inaction environnementale. La seule chose qu'Andrew Scheer est capable d'offrir aux électeurs, c'est de mettre fin à notre plan, sachant très bien qu'un tel geste coûterait cher aux familles canadiennes. Et les conservateurs ont promis que leur premier geste serait de rendre de nouveau la pollution gratuite et d'annuler nos meilleures règles pour des projets majeurs. Conservative premiers like Doug Ford are fighting us in court, using taxpayer dollars to fight climate action rather than to use that money to invest in a cleaner future and fight climate change. People in this room know full well what the Ford government has done to the renewables industry in this province. Canadians know this is the wrong approach to take. Millions of people around the world know the stakes, especially our young people. Young people are taking in the streets. They are telling us as leaders that we are facing the challenge of our generation and that we must step up and we must keep moving forward. Young people such as Greta Thunberg are driving this debate with their words and their actions, and they are holding us accountable. And I want to thank them for that. Even if their words may be pointed, their message is too important to ignore. Just yesterday, leaders from around the world, from government, the private sector, from civil society, came together in New York to chart the path ahead. The aim of the United Nations Climate Action Summit is simple. Ensure that as a global community, we come up with a realistic plan to achieve our Paris Agreement targets based on science and to reach net zero emissions by mid-century. 66 governments, along with leading businesses and other organizations, took the net zero pledge. To get there, we all need to do our part. Today, I'm happy to announce that a re-elected Liberal government would also take up this pledge, that we will also commit to reaching net zero emissions by 2050. Aujourd'hui, je suis en mesure d'annoncer qu'une fois réélu, un gouvernement libéral prendra un tel engagement. We're in an election right now, so we can't go to the international community with any pledges about the future. But it's up to Canadians to decide in this election whether we keep on moving forward on protecting on the environment, on building on our climate plan, or whether we go backwards. Our promise is this: a re-elected government will commit to reaching net zero for Canada's greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. What does that mean? That means not putting any more carbon pollution into the air than we take out. I'll be frank, it's an ambitious target. That's why we're also pledging to appoint a group of experts to help us chart the path to a net zero future. And it is why we will legislate 5-year targets along the way. And let me tell you how incredibly important it is that we legislate the targets. That action on climate change can no longer be a partisan issue. Alors notre promesse, la voici. Une fois réélu, un gouvernement libéral s'engagera à ce que le bilan d'émissions de gaz à effet de serre au Canada atteigne le zéro net à l'horizon 2050. Zéro net, ou bilan de carbone neutre, ça veut dire qu'on n'envoie pas dans l'atmosphère davantage de carbone que l'on retire. Mais soyons francs, c'est un projet ambitieux. C'est pourquoi nous prenons aussi l'engagement de confier à un groupe d'experts la tâche de nous aider à tracer la route vers un avenir zéro net. C'est aussi pourquoi nous allons établir par législation des cibles quinquennales tout au long de la route. Our goal is to make sure that Canada is not adding to the amount of pollution in our air. It means significantly reducing emissions across our economy and in how we live our lives. And for the emissions we can't cut, they will have to be offset by things that capture those emissions, which includes using more of nature, planting new trees. We can be ambitious and we can be practical. We have to protect our environment, and we also have to keep our economy going strong. It's exactly what we've been doing. We have the most ambitious and practical climate plan of any federal government, and at the same time, we've created over 1 million jobs with Canadians. That's what we mean when we say the environment and the economy go together. Although conservative politicians will tell you otherwise, but we don't have to choose between the two. In fact, if you don't have a plan for the environment in the 21st century, you don't have a plan for the economy. A Liberal government will also introduce a Just Transition Act to put people front and center, making sure that no one gets left behind. People need to be at the heart of climate action. This act will ensure that workers have access to the training and support they need to succeed in the new clean economy. As we move forward, the skills and expertise of Canadian workers and our natural resources will be more important than ever. We have a $26 trillion economic opportunity for climate action, and we know that the strongest economies and businesses in the future will be those that embrace clean technologies. That those are projects like Elysis in Quebec that produces aluminum through zero carbon smelting. Right here in Ottawa, Carleton University is doing amazing work through the leadership of Cynthia Cruikshank in innovative manufacturing materials for buildings and homes. We can build net zero homes right now. We have great businesses from Rockport Networks to Blue Wave AI to Equispheres right here in the National Capital Region that are leading the way when it comes to clean technologies. We have a huge opportunity, and this is part of my commitment, including locally, to ensure that Ottawa is the greenest capital in the world and that Ottawa businesses are leading in the way. Under a Liberal government, we're going to continue to invest in Canadians and invest in a cleaner future with good jobs. Whether we're taking bold action to fight climate change, making life more affordable for new parents, giving more money to seniors in retirement, we're ready to keep on making progress. So this October, as a country, we have a really important choice to make. Will we go back to the failed policies of the past, where we don't protect our environment? Or will we continue to move forward, taking action that tackles climate change, that protects the environment, at the same time making sure life is affordable and we're creating good jobs? That is the choice. It is that clear, and it is that important. We are for moving forward for everyone. Alors, en octobre, nous allons devoir faire un choix très important. Retourner en arrière vers la politique discréditée du passé ou continuer à faire du progrès. C'est ça, le choix. Yes, we are here because we believe in moving forward for everyone. Thank you. Merci. I am now happy to take questions. I'll take one question and one follow-up, and I know many of you, but maybe you could just say the organization you're from.
Mia Rapson from the Canadian Press. Some have suggested that your government now has actually been quite timid in your climate action, that you've not gone far enough. You're still, I think, at least 80 million tons shy of the 2030 target as we sit now. You're planning to legislate 5-year targets. Can you talk about what the legislation actually means, what the penalties would be, and how you actually intend to get beyond the 2030 targets?
Our government has a plan that includes over 50 measures. We negotiated for a year with provinces and territories. Unfortunately, some provinces have moved back, but let's talk about what's in our plan to meet our target. We have a clear plan to meet our 2030 target. It's everything from phasing out coal, investing in renewables, ensuring a just transition to workers, making historic investments in public transportation, like right here in Ottawa, the LRT will be the largest reduction in greenhouse gas emissions in the city's history, developing a new net zero building standard, making historic investments in energy efficiency, supporting clean technology companies, and doing more. We announced that we would double the amount of nature that we would protect, that we will ban certain single-use plastics and ensure that we hold producers responsible for the plastics that they produce. And I've learned over the last 4 years that we do need to legislate targets, because unfortunately what has happened is we are fighting conservative politicians and premiers at every turn. Unfortunately, we have provinces led by conservatives like Doug Ford who would rather spend money fighting climate action in court rather than fighting climate change. We have Andrew Scheer who said he would follow that example. He would cut the programs that we have brought in, everything from incentives to electric vehicles to the historic investments that we're making in energy efficiency and public transportation, to making it free to pollute, to getting rid of our better rules for major projects, which include a climate test. That we need to be making progress, and climate action can no longer be a partisan issue. So with a panel of experts, we will look at what does it mean to be net zero emissions by 2050, and every 5 years we will have a plan to get there. And we are joining countries around the world. 66 governments have signed up for this. We have leading businesses. Why? Because the strongest countries, the strongest businesses will be those that have embraced a cleaner future, that are working with businesses like Switch Energy that I'm with right here today, because they understand that not only do we have an obligation to our kids to build a better future, we have a huge economic opportunity, and Canadian workers need to be the forefront of that.
You didn't actually answer the question about what the penalties would be for legislating, and if you can answer in French as well.
Well, look, we're making this announcement in terms of the penalties, and I think the point is right now, first of all, we need to get elected. We need to get, through this election, because the choice is really clear. We have conservatives led by Andrew Scheer who would do none of this, who would take us back in time, who would make it free to pollute, would remove all the programs that we've brought in. So we will be, if we are reelected, we will look at how best to do this, what are the best practices around the world. We will work with experts to do this, and we will have legislated path to get there. Alors, je pense que c'est très important de regarder ce qu'on a fait pour les 4 années passées comme gouvernement libéral. On a pris 1 an pour négocier avec les provinces et territoires un plan d'action sur le climat. C'est vraiment dommage qu'on a des politiciens conservateurs, des politiciens au niveau provincial comme Doug Ford qui veut aller en arrière, qui veut faire que c'est gratuit à polluer, mais nous continuons de marcher en avance. Nous éliminons le charbon, nous investissons des montants historiques dans les renouvelables, nous faisons sûr qu'il y a une transition juste pour les employés. Nous doublons la nature que nous protégeons. Nous investissons dans le transport en commun, comme ici à Ottawa. Le train rapide va être la plus grande réduction de gaz à effet de serre dans l'histoire de la ville. Nous investissons dans des technologies propres et des compagnies, des innovateurs, comme ici à Switch Energy. Nous bannissons de la pollution unique usage et nous doublons la nature. Et nous avons un plan pour atteindre nos cibles d'ici 2030. Mais nous devons aller plus. Alors, nous devons aller avoir un cible net zéro pour 2050 et on va faire ça avec des experts si nous sommes réélus. Et hier, on a vu 66 gouvernements et des compagnies majeures qui ont dit qu'ils vont faire la même chose parce que c'est ça ce qu'on a besoin du leadership pour atteindre nos cibles. Et ça, c'est ce que demandent les jeunes dans la rue. Est-ce que c'est ambitieux? C'est sûr. Est-ce que ça va prendre du temps à développer le plan? C'est sûr. Mais on n'a pas de choix. Et aussi l'opportunité économique. 26 trillions de dollars, c'est extrême, c'est extraordinaire. Et moi, je veux que le Canada soit chef de file. Et c'est nos compagnies et nos employés qui ont les solutions, qui créent de bons emplois ici au Canada.
Bonjour, Mme McKenna, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. J'ai 3 questions rapides qui sont des questions oui ou non, et ensuite un follow-up, si vous me permettez. 1. Est-ce que la loi contient, est-ce que vous savez si la loi aura des pénalités?
Alors, nous faisons cette annonce aujourd'hui. Nous allons regarder comment les pays dans le monde font ça. Et on va avoir un comité d'experts qui va nous aider. Mais c'est sûr que ça doit être que les changements climatiques. Mais on va faire cette décision avec le comité. Mais je veux dire que c'est tellement important que ça soit dans la législation parce que nous avons vu combien c'est difficile au Canada. On a des conservateurs qui vont de retour. Alors, l'action sur les changements climatiques ne devrait pas être un bilan politique.
2 questions oui ou non. Allez-vous devoir augmenter la taxe carbone pour atteindre ces nouvelles cibles de 2030 et 2040?
Alors, rien n'a changé. On a toujours dit qu'on va réexaminer la prise sur la pollution d'ici 2022. Mais ce que je veux dire, ce qui est tellement décourageant, c'est que nous avons des politiciens conservateurs comme Doug Ford qui nous prend au cours pour lutter contre la prise sur la pollution. Ils veulent faire que c'est gratuit à polluer, mais c'est sûr, nous allons en avance. Doug Ford a une campagne, mais ça ne marche pas très bien, je pense, de collants pour dire des choses qui ne sont pas vraies sur notre plan sur la prise sur la pollution. Nous redonnons l'argent. Alors, on doit continuer de travailler. La prise sur la pollution, c'est seulement un partie d'un plan, mais c'est tellement important d'avoir un prix sur la pollution. Ça fait partie de n'importe quel plan sérieux sur les changements climatiques, mais nous avons pris beaucoup d'autres mesures et nous allons travailler avec des experts, comme j'ai dit, pour voir c'est quoi le bilan d'ici 2050.
Donc, si je comprends bien, vous demandez aux Canadiens de vous faire confiance que vous allez avoir un plan après l'élection, mais pour le moment, vous n'avez pas ce plan-là.
Nous avons un plan et j'encourage tous les Canadiens de voir le plan. Je suis heureux de vous donner le plan. Ça s'appelle Clean Canada, Canada propre. Ça démontre comment on va atteindre notre cible, incluant la prise sur la pollution. Et ça, c'était négocié avec les provinces dans les négociations qui sont finies en décembre 2016. Non, mais je peux vous donner notre plan. C'est clair ce qu'on fait maintenant. Oui.
Alex Ballingall, the Toronto Star. Government projections, you're already on track to fall short based on current measures of the 2030 target. Now you're saying you'll exceed them, but you're not presenting any new measures. Can you explain how that makes sense?
So we have a plan to meet our 2030 target. We already, with existing measures that are modeled, we are 3/4 of the way there. And let's talk about the plan. It has more than 50 measures that were negotiated during 1 year with provinces and territories. We backstopped many provinces and territories that have walked back on commitments, and we've announced new ones. So in our climate plan, we have a price on pollution. Unfortunately, Doug Ford, other provinces are fighting it. We have a price on pollution while we're giving money back to Canadians. We know that part of any credible climate plan, you need a price on pollution. We're phasing out coal. and making sure there's a just transition for workers and communities. We're making historic investments in renewables. We have moving forward in a net zero building code. We have the toughest methane targets in the world for the oil and gas sector. We're making historic investments in public transportation, and we're doing much more. Recently, we announced a $5,000 incentive for electric vehicles. We announced that we're moving forward on doubling the amount of nature we protect. We're tackling plastic pollution, which also, through the production and breakdown of pollution, causes emissions. We're going to be moving forward on banning single-use plastics. And we have other measures those measures plus provincial measures will have us meet our target for 2030, but we need to go further. That the science shows that we need to be net zero by 2050, and that is ambitious. That is ambitious for the countries that signed up for it, for the businesses, but that's the kind of ambition we need. And we're going to do this in a way that I hope takes us out of the political realm, that we're going to legislate targets every 5 years with experts. And we're also going to ensure a just transition for workers, because at the center of any climate plan are people. And I'm really proud to look at the folks behind me, that we have leading inventors, innovators, young people who understand what a cleaner future looks like and the huge economic opportunity to do better. We can do better with how we build our homes. Our homes can be net zero. We have the CHIO model home. It is net zero with an electric vehicle. That is what we can do this. We can be ambitious. We can make changes in the way we live our lives, to have houses that cost us less money because they're more energy efficient, vehicles that cost us less money over the longer term because they're more energy efficient, companies like this that provide solutions that folks need and that create good jobs here. That's the future we want, and we need to be ambitious on this. But let's be clear, this is a critical election because the conservative politicians don't understand the science behind climate change. They voted against our motion, just recognizing that we are in a climate emergency, and that is what the science says, and that we need to meet our international obligations. That Andrew Scheer would take a lead from Doug Ford, make it free to pollute, although the courts have shown that pollution knows no boundaries, and we need to be able to act nationally to tackle pollution. He would remove the incentives for electric vehicles that are helping folks save money, the investments that we're making, historic investments in public transportation so people can get around in a cleaner way, investments in clean technology solutions and energy efficiency, going back to coal. That is all at risk in this election. And that's why I'm here again, because I don't want to go back to the time of Stephen Harper. That's exactly why I got into politics. I didn't like the direction of this country. And when we see young people marching in the streets, we need to listen to them, and we need to listen to our scientists, and we can move forward. We know what the solutions are, and I certainly hope that Canadians will recognize that, and they will choose forward.
Just on the, you mentioned a few times the importance of legislating climate action and targets and this idea of having a panel. Couldn't the next government, whatever it is, just dismantle that law that you had passed? Like, how does passing a law sort of set it in stone if there's no penalties, and presumably another government could just strike down that law?
Well, first of all, we have an election, and we are showing what we have done in the last 4 years with Canadians, and setting out what we would do. So the first thing we need to do is get through this election, because let me tell you, if you have a Conservative government, we're going back in time, and I don't know whether we can recover Canada. We've done amazing progress with Canadians, with cities, with businesses, with schools, with hospitals, with young people to be more energy efficient, to save money, to tackle pollution, to invest in the technologies and the solutions we need. But of course, any government can do anything, and that's the sad thing. And I say that with great sadness that the first thing Doug Ford came in and did was he made it free to pollute, and he canceled programs across the board that were helping businesses, schools, hospitals, universities, people save money. It caused havoc for businesses, and you can talk to folks in the renewable sector, but also it was bad for people who wanted to be part of the solution and wanted to save money. But I believe in Canadians. I believe in the young people who are marching the streets, but I also believe in their parents and grandparents, that they recognize that what we are seeing, the floods every few years as opposed to once every 100 years, the droughts, the fires, they are recognizing that we need to act, and they also recognize that we have the solutions. And so I'm an optimist. I'm optimistic that Canadians will recognize the importance of this election, that we need to choose forward, including on climate change, but also in growing a clean economy and continuing creating jobs with Canadians. And then we do need to move forward, and I think legislating emissions is part of this, targets is part of it. We need to have certainty for business, certainty for Canadians, and we need to hold politicians to account.
Hi, Minister. Molly Thomas, CTV National News. You say you need to get elected before you outline penalties for this legislation, but you're asking Canadians to buy into your climate plan. So don't Canadians deserve to know what's at stake before they vote?
Oh, I think Canadians know well what's at stake. They know that if they have a choice. We have outlined what we're proud to stand on, what we've done for the past 4 years on climate change, and now we're outlining what we would do next. Do we have all the details? No, but let's be clear. We are saying we need to be net zero by 2050. We're saying that we need experts to help show us the path to get there, that we need to make sure workers are part of the transition, which is why we'll have a Just Transition Act, and yes, that we need to legislate targets. And this is exactly what happened yesterday in New York. You had 66 governments and leading businesses saying the same thing. And we're going to figure this out, but the first thing we need to do is we need to get through this election, and if we get elected, we will move forward on ambitious and pragmatic climate action that tackles climate change, takes action based on science, and also grows the economy and creates good jobs for everyone. Or Conservative politicians will go back in time. They will go back on everything we've done, and we can be sure they're not going to be making commitments like the one we're doing.
One of the governments that has been dragging their feet is Germany. Their environment minister is very strong, saying, we want to get to net zero, but nobody knows how to do it. So, I mean, this is one of the leading countries in the world saying, we don't know how to do this.
So I talked to a CEO about this. In life, you need ambition. That you don't start a company and you know exactly how you're going to get to be the big company creating the jobs. We need ambition. We need to have targets, we need to make them, and we need to figure out the path that's there. But let's just talk about what phones everyone has. 20 years ago, what kind of phones would everyone had? Lucky if you had a flip phone. Certainly didn't have an iPhone. That the cost of renewable energy has gone down precipitously, where in many cases it's much cheaper than fossil fuels. That you look at how we have, imagine this, in Ottawa we have Chio's dream home. It's a net zero home with an electric vehicle. We have a huge opportunity. Do we know every single way we're going to get there for 2050? No. And we're going to figure out what is the way that does it best to grow our economy and create good jobs and make sure people are part of it. But we need ambition on climate. And let me tell you, what has hurt us the most is when people don't believe that we can take action on climate change, when people don't believe the science. But I want to thank the environmentalists who've worked on this for decades, for the young people who are on the streets who are saying, work harder, because that has motivated us to work so hard. And unfortunately, there are far too many fights on climate action instead of fights to tackle climate change here in our country right now with conservative politicians. But we need to be moving forward. We need to be ambitious. We may not know exactly how to get there, but that's the same of all the countries that have committed to this and the businesses. But we will figure this out. And the way we will do this is having a serious climate plan with credible and pragmatic action by listening to the science, listening to the experts, and most of all, listening to young people in the streets who are saying, are you going to act for our future? The economic opportunity is clear, the moral obligation is clear, and the will, certainly from Liberals, is there. And this is going to be a very big election where people will have a choice. Canadians will have a choice. Choose forward to take serious and ambitious action in Canada and with the world on climate change, or with Conservatives go back in time.
Hi, Ms. McKenna. David Cochran with CBC News. What you're outlining here today to hit these targets would require a significant restructuring in the way many Canadians live, and certainly how the economies of at least 3 provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, and Labrador, would have to restructure to meet these targets. So you've given us very few specifics. You've given us a destination, but not the stops along the way. You say the choice is clear. Why can't you stand here with greater clarity for how this will affect Canadians on their daily lives and how it will affect the economies of your three big energy-producing provinces?
What I can give you clarity is what business leaders are saying, including Mark Carney. So Mark Carney is the governor of the Bank of Canada, Bank of England. He used to be the governor of Bank of Canada. He's been a climate leader. He's talked about the economic opportunity of climate action being $26 trillion. It is the biggest economic opportunity of our lifetime. I can tell you the cost of climate change. In Canada, just the insured costs alone in the last decade have gone from $400 million over a year to $2 billion. But in some cases, particular incidents like the forest fires in Fort McMurray, over $2 billion. I can tell you what the science says. The science says that Canada is warming at twice the global average, 3 times or more in the north. I can tell you that internationally, the Paris Agreement sets out that we need to be making decisions based on science, and if we're going to say well below 2 degrees, striving for 1.5, we need to be net zero by 2050. We know what the solutions are. We know what the solutions are. We don't know every single solution, and we need to figure this out as a country. We need to come together. We need to be supporting each other. We need to be supporting our energy workers. I am I was the environment minister for everyone, whether you're an energy worker or you're an environmentalist or you're a young person or you live in the north. We need to figure this out as a country, but people want cleaner air. People want cleaner water. Young people don't want to live thinking that they won't have the same future, sustainable future that we have. People don't want to be living in fear that they're going to have a flood every second year when it's supposed to be once every 100 years. We need ambition as a country, but most of all, we need practical plans where we move forward, and that's exactly what we've done over the last 4 years. That is what, if we were re-elected, that is what we will continue to do. We will work with experts. We will work with anyone who has solutions to tackle climate change, and of course, we will work with Canadians in all provinces. And if you look at provinces like Saskatchewan, they have huge opportunities for solar and wind. They have ingenuity of their workers. That as we look at phasing out coal, we've had a just transition task force working with workers and communities, that everyone has to be part of it, and that transitions don't happen overnight, and that we have taken a pragmatic approach to tackle climate change where Canadians are at the heart of it, and that's what we're going to continue doing, and we're going to continue working with Canadians. Sadly, I would wish Conservative politicians would do the same, because if you do not have a plan for the environment, if you do not have a plan for serious time for tackling climate change, you don't have a plan for taking advantage of the $26 trillion opportunity, but you don't also have a plan to deal with the costs that we are all paying right now that are just going to increase and are a debt that we will be leaving to our children and grandchildren.
With all due respect, Minister, we're not seeing a plan today. You've been asked very specific questions on whether carbon pricing will have to go up after 2022. No answer. You were asked if there are penalties in the 5-year legislation. No answer. We've asked what specific impacts this will have on your energy provincial economies. No answer. This is a target. This is not a plan. This is an election. You say people have to make a choice. Can't you put on the table specifically what it is they're choosing if they vote for you and vote for this target?
So first of all, they're choosing to build on the progress that we have made. That we are the first government that has a plan to meet our target, that we have implemented parts of the plan, we are moving forward, and that's improving people's lives. Whether it's investments in public transportation, investments in clean technology companies, investments in doubling the amount of nature that we're protecting, tackling plastic pollution, phasing out coal, bringing in methane regulations, those are very practical measures. I'm not going to stand here and say what our exact plan is to 2050 because we need to make that plan with experts. Yes, we need to work with provinces. I mean, hopefully provinces, provinces led by conservative politicians will show leadership. We're very lucky to live in Canada. We have the natural resources that we need for the economy of the future, whether it's for electric batteries for vehicles or solar panels or the ingenuity of our workers. We can figure this out, but what we can't do is ignore climate change. What we can't do is ignore the economic opportunity of climate action, because that's not going to help our workers, that's not going to help our economy, and that's not going to help build a cleaner future. We have outlined what we would do for until 2030. We will continue building on that as we have been doing, and we will work with experts, if elected, to develop a plan for 2050, which is exactly what other countries around the world are doing and exactly what other businesses are doing, leading businesses.
En français, Madame McKenna, sur le choix que les Canadiens
Alors, le choix dans cette élection ne pourrait pas être plus clair. Notre gouvernement a travaillé très fort les 4 années passées pour avoir un plan ambitieux et pratique pour attaquer au changement climatique, pour réduire nos émissions, pour créer de bons emplois. Nous avons créé plus de 1 million d'emplois avec des Canadiens et nous attaquons au changement climatique avec un plan qui compte éliminer le charbon, investissement historique dans les renouvelables, dans le transport en commun, dans des technologies propres, en doublant la nature, en des programmes de réduction d'émissions pour des gens, pour qu'ils puissent acheter des air conditioners, des choses qui sont plus énergie efficaces. Et nous allons continuer. Mais nous, soyons clairs ce que les conservateurs ont dit. Ils ont voté contre une motion qui dit nous devons agir sur la science, que nous avons une urgence climatique et que nous devons atteindre notre cible. Ils ont aussi dit, Andrew Scheer a dit que la première chose qu'il va faire est joindre avec Doug Ford pour faire que c'est gratuit à polluer. Et nous savons que son plan, ça va coûter plus d'argent aux Canadiens. Il va aussi enlever nos meilleures règles pour des projets majeurs, des incitatifs pour des véhicules électriques, des incitatifs pour que les gens puissent sauver de l'argent pour faire des choix énergie efficaces. Ça, c'est reculé dans le passé. Mais moi, je parle avec beaucoup de Canadiens tout autour du pays. Ici à Ottawa-Centre, mais moi, j'ai fait un tour en Ontario il y a les 2 dernières journées. J'ai fait des tours tout autour du pays. Les Canadiens veulent le progrès. Ils veulent l'action sur les changements climatiques. Ils veulent l'action qui est ambitieuse, mais aussi qui est pratique, qui crée de bons emplois, qui trouve des solutions propres pour le Canada peuvent avoir des solutions ici, mais pour qu'on puisse avoir des solutions pour le monde entier. Alors ça, c'est le progrès. Et je vais dire, il n'y a pas d'élection plus importante quand ça vient au changement climatique.
Last question, Tom.
Tom Perry with CBC. You've got a just transition fund in this. Have you thought about how many workers are going to have to transition out of the traditional energy sector under your plan?
Look, the transition is happening already. We're seeing huge opportunities. No one's going back to coal. There are 5 times more jobs in renewable energy. We did create a just transition task force for workers affected by the coal phase out, and that has been very useful in terms of working with labor, with businesses, listening to workers and communities. And we believe our energy workers will be part of this transition. They have great skills and ingenuity. And this is a long-term transition towards a cleaner future. And look at the jobs that are created right here at Switch Energy. But I see jobs across the board are created by clean technology companies. We're also really lucky. The natural resources we have are the natural resources that we need in the future for things like electric batteries. The opportunity is $26 trillion. That's Mark Carney, the Governor of Bank of England, has put it at that. That is an opportunity for Canada to lead the way. We know that businesses and governments that are going to be the most successful in the economy of the future are the ones that are going to be choosing clean technologies. They're going to be building a cleaner future. And it's also good for people. It means cleaner air. It means cleaner water. And of course, it means a more sustainable future for our kids and grandkids where everyone benefits. And that's the future I believe Canadians will choose.
Can you meet your targets with the Alberta oil sands producing at their current level, or do you have to see those oil sands being reduced and eventually phased out?
Look, I mean, we're going to need energy. We just need to be reducing our emissions. And let's be clear what net zero means. Net zero means that you can't put more pollution in the air than you take out. So there's still going to be a need for energy, but everything is going to have to be much more energy efficient, absolutely. And we have many companies, including energy companies, who have talked about the need to be net zero with technologies like carbon capture, use, and storage. There are huge opportunities to do this, and we need to do this together. And this is about working together as a country. We have always said this. This is not about targeting one sector. This is about choosing a cleaner future, choosing the $26 trillion economic opportunity, choosing cleaner air, cleaner water, making decisions based on science, and of course, making sure that we can look our grandchildren and children in the eye and say, yes, We recognized that we needed to take action on climate change, and we took ambitious and practical action.
You can though do it with the oil sands still?
There are many energy companies, including in the oil sands, who have said that we need to get to net zero. So we will be working with anyone that wants to be part of the solution. That we have the technology, we have the solutions. There's a project, analyses, that is net zero smelting aluminum. That this is 2050. The future looks very different. As I say, I wish I had a phone here. My phone from 1998. It would look pretty different from the phone that we use now. We have the opportunity to choose progress, to choose the clean solutions. We are making the investments that we need to do. We are working with businesses across the board, and we'll continue to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. Really? Probably like that more than the next. All right, thanks very much. Thank you. And keep it up. Keep up the work. We just need to show people the way. This is great. That's what you guys are doing. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks very much. All right, bye.
You arrived?